I did. Sorry, forgot to hit unmute. I was coughing
No
earlier,
problem.
so I muted myself. Uh, for what they're going to most likely use, I want to show them OpenSite SITEOPS. So when you buy OpenSite Designer, and I just this may be something, Gabriel, you're maybe just hearing today because it's fairly new within the last couple of weeks. If you buy OpenSite Designer, you're given two softwares: either Designer, which is a very high, it's our typical open product. It's very high end construction document level, but then we have SITEOPS, which is a lot more simplified, especially conceptual developer driven software that we've had out sort of for a good number of years now. So I'm going to show them OpenSite SITEOPS and show them that power, show them how easy we can create something, and then even go out to LumenRT and look at some visuals there.
Please start.
All right. So I'm going to show, and I'll go in, like I said, a couple sentences at a time and let you translate, make it a little easier. So I'm
Exactly.
going to show OpenSite SITEOPS. This is our conceptual um, design tool, really focusing around that feasibility conceptual side of the industry. Okay, so to start a project, it really depends if you have information or you not. I'm going to assume that we're going to do a project where we have absolutely nothing except maybe an idea of a location. And I'm just, Gabriel, I'm assuming they're doing things in metric. Would that be a good assumption?
Sí.
Okay,
Yes, sorry.
okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, so I'm just going to create a project and open it. And as you'll see, there's nothing on the screen in front of us, and that's absolutely okay. First tool I want to show them is called what we call Topo Import, and we're going to geolocate, georeference the project. So I'm going to go to make sure I can actually spell Bogota correctly because I am terrible at spelling things. Um, let's just zoom into Cali. I just looked on a map roughly where they're located, and if it's okay, I'm just going to take a piece of just a piece of land. Maybe I'm just looking at different places on my map on my property. Let's go in and there's something right. Let's see. This is the windy road. Here we go. Let's go in, and I'm going to use this piece of. Ask them if it's okay if I just use this piece of property. And we're just going to design multiple types of projects. So what I've done is I've created a boundary area from which we're going to grab information. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something. I'm going to grab some imagery from Esri. And everything I show today is going to be part of the software. There's no extra expense. There's no really anything extra that you got to do. We can come in and start grabbing information from Esri. And if I know the boundary of my project, or if I don't, I can always go in and put that in. But in this case, I'm going to go out and grab some Esri topography. I'm just going to click a button, and I'm going to sit back and wait for it to generate the surface. So that way, when I'm designing, it can grade and grade with a budget. All right. So now let's go in, and I'm going to draw a boundary. But while I'm drawing a boundary, ask if any of them have ever drawn a parking lot of, say, a couple hundred spaces, and ask them how long it typically takes them. Okay, sometimes it's why I wish I could speak other languages, um, because that's exactly why we built this technology a number of years back, because it shouldn't take that long. So let me just show them. I'm going to show them how quick it is to draw a parking lot, just a plain parking lot. We have tools at the top. I'm going to do a parking lot, turn off help, and I'm just going to draw the park. I'm just going to draw one for them to look at, and then we will start editing and playing around with it. So if I draw that, I'm done. And if I want to change it, that's up to me, the designer. I got full control of this system. I can make any shape, configuration. I can save them as templates so I don't, it actually even knows how to do things. If I just come in and pick on this, go to properties, and let's change this to say 500 meters, you're going to see it changes instantly. If we pick on the right, this is where the properties, and I'll let you tell them that. This is where you can set up different sizes, different configurations to meet the needs of what you're doing. So again, a number of different things you can change. I can change in the layout. I can do spacing. I can do aisles. I can do what's called a bay point. And in the U.S., this is a really big thing for doing trees in middle of parking lot, doing bay point, environmental. Oh, there you go. We can come in and change and move this. And again, if I don't like it, just pick it up and move it, or copy and paste and make multiples and make revisions. Because the one thing I'd like to convey to them, the purpose, the reason we made this software was to take the experience that they have, and instead of spending time drafting, they spend more time designing and looking for better options. Okay, so you can tell them, here's the beauty. I'm actually in 3D. We're going to keep the easiest way to draw is 2D. In about 1 minute after I draw a driveway, they're going to see what I mean by 3D. And it's not the 3D like you think, like a 3D visual. This is an analytical 3D algorithm model that I'm going to go in and hopefully wow them with some grading in just a moment. But we keep it simplistic of 2D because it's easier to draft, it's easier to design in 2D than it is 3D. So now I'm going to show them what I mean by 3D. I just drew a driveway, just a simple driveway. It automatically connects. But no matter how good this design is, we want to start looking at it in 3D, and we want to look at it from a point of grading. So in a second, they're going to see a multicolored screen come up. At first, don't look so much at the colors. Look in the lower right-hand corner, because I'm going to, in 3D, I'm going to grade this site 20, 30,000 times within just a minute, in less than a minute. So when we talk about 3D, I'm going to hit this button. And actually, I'm going to tell you this, and this is another good thing we have. This is a problem. This site with the topography will not work for the design we're putting on here. So you can see a budget on the bottom. So we're going to fix this. This is when we talk about design in 3D and we're talking about modeling. This is what we're talking about, that we can do things like I can see where I have problems. I'm missing by 26 meters across this project. So the question becomes, how do we solve that? So all I'm doing is just changing some requirements. I'm going to tell it it can have a little steeper driveway, and I've told it if it needs walls in certain sections, it can put a wall up. That's totally up to the software to see if it can come up with a better solution. Now, look at my 3D. I'm looking at I went from 6 million to 2 million on this project, but I'm looking at walls. Red is cut, blue is fill, and magenta is that wall. We can now start getting an idea of not just what it looks like in 2D, but how it performs in 3D, and what's
Mhm.
an idea of a cost to build this. And this is where, as the designer, this is where you go back and look for, can I make changes and still make the project work? Can I do something different? Maybe I reduce the amount of square footage or square meters. So I just want to grab this and move it. Let's just keep it this way. And say I want to change the configuration of the building to make it a little smaller because I don't have as much parking. But I can make all these changes rather quickly, hit a button, and grade it again within just minutes to determine, is there a better way to build the project? There's another $1 million saved, but the project goes into a drastically different mindset. But they're going to be able to quickly analyze and come up with an idea how best to do the project. Yes. Yes, this is from Esri. And if they do know what, for example, if they do know some of their local servers for GIS, you can actually put your own in, but we give this as part of the deliver as part of selling the software. Yes, and you can tell them what I'm showing right now, for example, is a software that comes with the software for free. It's called Luminar T Designer, which a moment ago we're creating a model, we're analyzing the model, we're working with it. But since we have a model, I can quickly come out and turn that model actually into a three-dimensional Luminar T model. We can just come in and I'll just show them a few things. I'll show them what's a little further done, so we can add. Let's add some trees. I want to come in and let's just clear that, and I'm just going to add just a single tree. Let's get a nice one that does sort of pretty when I change it. Uh, Sugar maple will be good. So when we add trees and we add items to this, we can actually make a 3D model. We can bring this in and imagine this. It's actually moving with the wind. Whoops, sorry. It moves with the wind. I can add cars in. I can add trees and people, and I can add movement to it. So it's a really cool software that I can do a lot of things to really quick and easy. And imagine if you spend
Aquí,
just a go ahead. Sorry, you can go ahead and tell 'em. So when you spend a
De
little
acuerdo.
extra time, this is one I've done, for example, just when I've played around with, and you can actually have seasons and wind and all kind of environments. I can have water. It's all because we created the 3D model with inside of OpenSite SITEOPS that I can simply export it out and take advantage of all this. You can bring in the Revit buildings, and I can bring in buildings, open building projects, whatever they want to bring in, we can bring in. And then you can do outputs, videos, images, augmented reality, all this kind of thing comes out with the system. And again, my favorite thing that it does day and night. So what I'm doing now, for example, is single family, what we call single family residential. It can be actually I've seen this used to do storage facilities. Everything inside of SiteOps has the ability to have templates and controls. So in this case, this is just a template. I don't have any actual. We'll just do this. We'll just call this a demo Cali. I'll just save as new. As you see, you can create as many of these as you want, but you have full control to change how they lay out. So do we have parcels? Do we not? I can take individual areas and make changes. Do we have buildings? Do we not? How are we going to grade this? Set this up once and it knows how to grade. So for example, if I pick on, let's just pick on this road here. If I pick on this road and I decide I don't want any build or any lots. Oh, sorry, I picked the wrong one. Sorry about that. Parcels. Let's do the red and the white. Let's say on one side I don't want any parcels. I can tell it to have no parcels. I have full control. It's all about, and it's a very simple software to learn. It's taking the experience we have and creating and changing. And if we want to come in and do something like, if we want to draw, let's just do a point from here to there, and you can break something up even further. Again, do something different, change the way that it looks. You'll see there's a red and green side, red and green, and that will just let you know how and where you want to change something. Maybe I want to override, I want those parcels, but I don't want a building on those parcels. So you're going to see now the buildings go away. It's all taking experience and knowledge of what they want and putting it into the system and trying to come up with a project. Oop, I know what the problem here is. Let me change this. These driveways are not steep enough for this project. So one thing I also want to convey to them, this is the when you're the developer, when you're the person who's spending the money to build the project, this part that I'm showing now is the most important part. We have ideas, we have concepts of what we want to build. If they are not economically feasible and buildable, that means absolutely nothing. It's just a pretty picture on a piece of paper or on the screen. This is telling me I can do parcels from a layout. What I can't do is grade it the way I normally would do my lots per standard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, and this is where if I want to do that project, this is where you come back and do something like let's get rid of buildings. That relieves a lot of constraints on this project. Or maybe again we just keep taking more of them away. It's not that the project is bad. It's just that I got to look at it a little bit different. And that's where we save money. That's where you make those better decisions. It's when I can come in and look at alternative solutions to find the best way to do it instead of doing padded lots. We may have to do ones that grade along with the roadway a little more natural. But in turn, I was able to make this project work. And I know quickly, for example, that's $2.5 million to build this project. That's the whole key is I know it. And those numbers are moving in the lower right because it's optimizing to get to the best design based upon cost. Yes. So there's two different types. Inside of OpenSite Designer, it's a manual, full blown drainage design. You have to, you have to do it manually, and then you can use StormCAD, which comes with it, to do some quick analysis. Inside of, let's just draw something a little easier that we know will grade. Okay, the lines that you see here, this is your path of resistance. This is actually telling me when I had that up there, where is my problem? It actually helps me identify why can it not physically construct the project. So like when I added walls to the building in the parking lot in the early example, I have to know that's how I solve the problem. But that's what we do as designers. We know that okay, I can't grade that, so therefore I'm going to say let's see what a wall looks like. And all I got to do is click one little button and tell it to release it for a wall. And if it needs a wall, it'll build it. If it don't, it won't build the wall. Yes. Sorry. So there is a default area. If you go right here, you can actually hit the default and you can store these. We populate them just so people have, it's actually with the US average for cost, just so people have something to start with. But you can create your own. You can save it and just bring it in. It'll export as basically a spreadsheet. You fill in the unit cost and you bring it in, or you could just come in and change any of these. And this is a big thing. So if we look at, let's do cut. If you want to look at any of these numbers, and if you change them, let's say you're in a project where if you cut, or let's say export, that's a better one. Say you have to export dirt from a project because you're in the inner part of a city. So design export can be sort of rather costly, right? So if we have export and it's, let's say, $50 a yard because I have to take it out of the city, I can break that. I can change it. I can change any of these. And this little indicator just shows that I've changed from the standard, and I can apply it, and we can grade. So before we answer that, I'm gonna have them look at one other quick thing. So the other part is what we get is we just don't get that little number in the right. You actually get, actually, let's just view it first. You get a cost report, and you can export this. This cost report is going to look at topsoil cut, clearing, fine grading, erosion control. And the second, I'm going to do piping. It can look at piping. So it can do a lot of things for you very simply. I just need to solve this problem. If we're going to look at, all right, that's fine over there. Let's do this problem. Let's properties. Let's change this to a 60%. So yes, they can change that, get exports of DWGs. There we go. It depends on what the contractor is using. Typically, for
Exactly.
storm drainage, we mainly interact with our own. We do export a DWG file that can be looked at in Civil 3D, which will have some of the storm, which will have a lot of this data as well. Um, Outside of those two softwares, we just don't do a lot of interaction with the other ones, just because for construction, there's vastly so many to try to work with. So it's yes. So let me just get rid of this piping for a second.
Sidewalk, exactly.
Yep, it's a sidewalk. So there's a couple ways we do sidewalks. Some of it just may be as simple as it's generated off the edge of the building. So a lot of items, you'll see that there has sidewalk on it. And then you can tell it what kind, how big. And once I tell it, it's there. So that's one way of doing a sidewalk. Another one might be, I just want to draw one. I'm going to come up to the top. We have layout. We have sidewalk. So if we cut, and it's intelligent enough to know that, for example, if I go across the roadway, and it can be in any shape, configuration, however we want it. We'll just in path. You're going to notice it, when it goes across of a driveway, it will not, the driveway is a higher element, so it will take control of that. And then we can come in, let's do all points. I'm an engineer. I still like things to look. Oh, not that many meters. Let's go 50 meters. I want
What
it all
about
to
the
come in.
roadways? Can we put sideways on the roadways, sidewalks?
Yeah. Yep. We just come in, and then it's a matter of do you want it on the left, the right, or both sides. So we got the red and the green. So if we want to come in to just say, we could even do on-street parking if they want. So again, a lot of things we can do on these roadways. But if I just want to come in and say it has sidewalk, same thing. You can see the sidewalk right there. The other sidewalk interacts with it. And as we grade, let's make sure we take this down to the same grading standards we did the other one. For slopes, we're now going
Exactly.
to look at sidewalks. One quick
They
thing else we can show if they want to see it. Let me just let this. Oh, I gotta close that. Here we go. Do they ever do vehicle analysis, like how a vehicle might come in and out of the project, and see if they need to change, like a delivery truck? Okay. Now the version I got, I just don't have the transfer trucks. There are versions where you can come in and create vehicles. Different. I'm trying to think in meters what something might be. Maybe it's 15 meters. I'm gonna push the wheels back. Let's see. I want a B, 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 B. Let's take that back to, I don't know, 14. And this is where the power is, because what if I don't like this and I want to change it? I can. So if I just come back in and let's change some radiuses, let's just make these, I don't know, maybe make them 20 and 20. And the question is, does it solve my problem? Nope. The vehicle still goes over. So maybe I need to widen the roadway. So we can do what's called stacking. Let's go in 75 meters. And let's say I want a width to be instead, let's just say 6 on each side. As you're going to see now, at width in the driveway, let's change this back to 50. There we go. And if we want to taper all this in, we can start tapering it in. Oh, I don't want to get rid of the median. We can come in and start stacking everything. Here we go. This is what I want. 6 and 6 with transitions of, let's say, 10 meters, another transition of 10 meters. But as you can see now, the vehicle will actually make it in, and then I can start routing the actual pavement down to make it work and fit it exactly. And then we can drop in a few vehicle points. So if you're selling this project to somebody else or to the city or to some, some other locale, you can come in and actually now show what you did. Yeah. So there's a number of different things. We work with everybody in the industry. So we have what's actually for the DGN, we use what's called a SITEOPS file, an SOZ, which is basically a DGN type output. KMZ for going to Google Earth, Collada goes to SketchUp or Luminar T, 12D for our straight land XML, DWG files. So we're pretty much CAD agnostic with this tool. We work with everybody out there, whether they're using Autodesk, Bentley, or some other product. Yeah, so this is just a typical output. I just did a quick one. I didn't really get detailed with what all they could do and do things like that. I just quickly pushed it out so you can start seeing. Let's turn off some of this. So again, we just have, you can see the proposed contours. Now I think these are half meters. Like I said, I didn't really set it up to be, I didn't spend a lot of time setting it up, but we can go in and see different pieces of it. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, that's, and if you go in, this is if we pick on it, it's a curb, it's on levels. They can use layer translators to then make it match company standards. But the curb that was one line inside of SiteOps becomes a 3-line curb, back edge and face. Again, we just do things that make life nice and simple. We break it up, um, and give them proposed and finished contours and things like that. Again, to convey the design. Um, So OpenSite SiteOps, I would say the biggest, I would call it is and it is not a negative. The biggest one is, and we run into this with some land developers, but I don't think it's in their case because this is what they do. I do hit land developers that want to bypass the professional that knows how to do a layout, and they go in and they try to start designing. But if you don't know why you're designing something a certain way, I'm putting the parking lot here, the sidewalk there, the software can feel cumbersome. But if you're a designer and you're doing this in regular CAD or some other software where it's manual, this is very natural. I think the one thing that people ask for is they want this to do complete construction documents, and that's the negative side. It just doesn't do everything, right? It's really meant for finding the first 20% of a project, finding a solution, creating some visuals, creating a budget that's actually usable in some other tool, and going forward. So there's, this technology has actually been around for about 12 years. Um, we were just sort of only in the US until the last couple years. So it's a very vetted software. There's not a lot of bugs. All this kind of stuff is out. I say the biggest downfall, which again I don't think they fall into, is their ability to understand how and why you design a site as a designer. So the classes we normally do are like 2 half-day classes. That's it. We do them, and we typically they're done about every other week. They're free. Tom Cruise, our trainer, does them online. Um, so when you get through with these classes, you're pretty advanced user, because the software does not have a lot of buttons. That was part of our mission back in those days. Is we take it out. And then, like any software, you need, do a couple projects to sort of get the feel of how it works for you. But this is something that users will tell you across the board is something they can pick up really quick, and easy, because we don't fall in the typical CAD, way of doing things in CAD, which is lines and arcs and curves and things like that. We're about automation and making something that should take you 20 steps to create. We're going to do it in one. So it makes it a
Okay.
lot easier. It makes it really simple to learn. What else more do I want to show? Um, I think that's a good high level view. I know we can always delve into more, but I think that's basically
Yeah.
the in a nutshell what it does. Basically is a quick high level overview. I mean, we can do things like you can be very detailed in grading, import, export, control things so that you get better budgets. We can do like athletic fields where we can control grades to do exactly what we want. So the user has full control. We have a thing in here called other area. McDonald's, which I laugh, uses this as a dumpster pad, and AECOM has used it as a nuclear reactor pad. It can be anything you want it to be. So there's a lot of tools that are still in here that we didn't really go over, but they're very simple to learn, and they're very customizable, so you can make it the way they want it. Use it the way they need to in their project.
Mhm.
So when in our world of OpenSite, so I'm actually now an OpenSite designer, the full engineering tool. It has all the layout tools just like you saw inside of SiteOps. They're in there. This is more of a detailed design software, but you can actually see now I don't design in just 2D. I'm doing everything in 3D. And because I'm creating 3D models with water and sewer and all kind of different, different models, let's change this to drainage and utilities. I can now use and put in things. Make sure I think it's coming up on another screen somewhere. There it goes. We can put in. Come on out of there. It's want to be a pain. Stop that. But
David, lo que me está
you can
mostrando
put in other utilities besides potable water, sanitary sewer. But again, if you look, let's go up here, see if I can roll this up underneath and look that I actually have. Get rid of this. Let's look at this here. So as you can see, you got basically you have StormCAD in there, and StormCAD can run analysis of class detections, reports, um, anything that you can do with any other software in the world out there. This can do it, and has been doing it for much longer and much better. And this is where you would run class detections. I just don't have this project set up to do a class detection, but you can see you can set it up and have results, and it gives you a report and shows you exactly where each problem is. So for one of
and
them, one of their better things, it may be a mix between OpenSite SiteOps and OpenSite Designer, just depending on who does what in the company. No, I was going to say that was sort of a statement. That may be how it may not be that they use just one software or the other. They may use both of them to interact depending on who's conceptual, who's not, or they could all just use OpenSite Designer, which has the concept tools just like SiteOps has already
okay.
built into it. Well, no, I don't have the graphic, but to give you an idea that this project I'm talking here, this is an AECO one of our open buildings. That because I actually taught Autodesk products years ago at the community at the college here in town. I created that building in Revit and then
Okay,
brought that building in from into OpenSite and then just it referenced it in and then just exported it out. So this building, for example, that went from Revit to OpenSite to Luminar T. I actually done that in Revit. And tell them that's why it don't look like a great building. I'm a civil engineer, not an architect, but I did the best I could.